Mr.
Yeah.
Joshua, how are you today, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, Mr. Kendrick. How are you?
Mate, it was good. We're good. I'm good. Lots going on. Oh,
Coffee was good.
I'm wondering why these headphones aren't working. It's because
Not
they're not
plugged in.
plugged in.
That'll do it.
Oh, there's
That'll do
stereo surround sound now.
it.
Yeah.
Coming to you, stereo.
Oh, mate, it's been busy. We've been doing stuff, and today
Lots of lots
we
of busy things going on.
Josh had what did you have? The brekkie burger down at Moselle's. Harry made
Yeah,
us a nice burger, and
yeah.
I had the
Brekkie burger,
bruschetta.
extra shot, extremely large coffee.
Yeah, no, it was good. And well represented, well played there, by the way. That water with the Colorbond logo on it. Yeah,
Subtle product.
it's kind of like it doesn't really work the same. But
That's it.
yeah,
So what were we going to chat about today again, Kenny?
so there's two things we're going to do. Two podcasts. So
Yep.
this is podcast one. We're going to talk about why you would use Colorbond for your cladding.
Yes. Why use Colorbond for your cladding? And why is that, Kenny?
Oh, mate, there's so many different things. So first of all, we've got to talk about what options do we have. So when building a house, you've got lots of different construction
Mm.
methods, and one of the construction methods is to do a lightweight frame. So a lightweight frame is opposed to doing a brick wall. So the outside of your house, you could brick the wall up and you could leave it exposed brick, or you could render that brick. Um, and if you're crazy, you can clad over the top of that brick. But that there is a heavy wall. Then if you've got a light framed wall, essentially it's a framed wall that you're going to put some cladding on the outside of. So what do you do on the outside? What is cladding? Well, the cladding is a product which covers over the top of the light frame walls. So this could be a cement-based product. This could be timber. So if you go back in the old Queenslanders, they are what you would call weatherboards. So timber weatherboards, and so that's one type. Cement board, which is you could have fake looking, well, weatherboards made out of cement rather than timber. Pretty much that's your option. All different types of timber. Then you've got Colorbond, and all different types of Colorbond. So you have your all your different ranges. Whatever you can get Colorbond in, you can stick that on the wall of a house or of a building. And that's essentially what cladding is. So cladding is a material that covers over the top of the wall to close in the house.
Yeah. And you can basically, yeah, like you were saying, you could use FC cement sheeting like Axon board or whatever, or put it in Colorbond. But what's the main benefit of using Colorbond compared to using a weatherboard or using FC sheeting or whatever?
On the main benefit. So I'll break that down. So whenever we do roofing or cladding, we look at it going, the number one reason this is happening is to keep the weather out.
Mm-hmm.
So for weather protection purposes. So before any beauty or any prettiness comes into it, it comes down to its ability to keep the water out. So I would say the benefit of using Colorbond over the top of using cement board or weatherboards is that you've got a very good waterproofing system that you can build and put on the house with that. So that's number one. The other one is maintenance. So maintenance
Mm-hmm.
you have with weatherboards and FC board or fiber cement. You have to maintain that. You need to paint it, or you don't have to, but it's going to start to look really, really quite tired. So you need to paint it. And for waterproofing, you need to paint it. You need to redo all the silicon work, the seals around windows. They're things that need to happen. And if you look at a house that hasn't been maintained, at 15 to 20 years old, that house is looking really quite tired, generally speaking. It looks like it needs a freshen up. It needs a paint. Now, the average cost of painting a house could be, it just goes up and up and up with time. So you look $10,000, $20,000, 30,000, depending on
Mm-hmm.
your situation. Now, if you have a two-story house and you've got to paint the upstairs, you're now looking at putting scaffolding up. that scaffolding could be $10,000 by itself before you even paint. So
Yeah, that's going to add the cost up real quick.
it certainly does. So putting Colorbond on your house to save on maintenance is huge. Now the cost is higher, but you will save on maintenance in the long term. So if you're an investor and you're building a cheap, nasty home, well, you're not going to spend the extra because you don't really care about the maintenance, because you're probably going to flip it in 5 years to 7 years, get your depreciation and move on with things. However, if it's important to you and it's something that you're looking at going, well, I want minimal maintenance, how can I achieve minimal maintenance on this house over the next 30 years? Now, BlueScope Colorbond material or aluminium material or copper, metal cladding, generally pre-finished metal cladding, or if you say a Zincalume, a material which is finished, whether it has to be painted or it's fine in its own self, is a very, very good solution for that. And that's those two reasons there. For waterproofing, so cladding, you need it in some format. So whether you go Colorbond or FC or timber, that's your choice. But when it comes to why you would choose Colorbond over the top of those other products, maintenance just wins out 100%. It is much better for maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, like you said before, you don't have to paint it again come a couple of years down the track when it's starting to look all old and tired, and you don't have to worry about having to replace it as often either. I mean, if you've got weatherboards and then they get a bit of water in them, they start getting waterlogged or whatever and start rotting, you're going to have to replace all those weatherboards.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Colorbond is probably going to outlast that timber.
Well, if you look at old homes, that the reality is the timber that we're building houses with today is not of the same quality we were building houses with 100 years ago. So, and if you look at a 100-year-old house that hasn't been maintained, it's falling apart. So even that isn't. So yeah, looking at using a Colorbond product which has a very good warranty, and it's steel, and if it's maintained, well, it needs less maintenance, but if it's installed and it's done properly, you're going to get a really long lifespan out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably going to outlast. It's definitely going to outlast the current owner.
Yeah, well, but generally speaking, yeah,
the warranty being the warranties in some cases can be 20 years, so that's a long time to be living in the same house.
Yeah, and you think that even after that 20 years, the expectation of, if you're not somewhere which is out on the ocean or something like that, where you're going to get a high corrosive area, if you're not in a high corrosive area, it's really only paint fade that you have to worry about. So the reality is, if you, after 20 years, people generally are going to freshen up anyway. So if you're, and put some modern colors, you can just paint the Colorbond and it'll continue to do a very good job. It's very easy to paint Colorbond in the long run. So 30 years old, 40 years old, it looks good. So, and it's easy to do with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, wash down. I mean, you just get the hose out and just get it done. All the dust and dirt will come off. It's nice and quick.
And that's the beauty of it. Washing it with a water blaster. I mean, a hose, you can wash it like a car, for example. Like wash it the same as you would wash a car. It washes down, and you don't. One of the things. So on my house, we built using. We used a product called, I've forgotten the name of it now, but it's like an Axon board, but timber, WeatherTex. So we use WeatherTex and Colorbond steel on our house. So we've got a combination of cladding because we wanted a mixture. I didn't want to go all Colorbond because then it would just be too much. And that's something that it touch on in the next podcast a little bit, by putting too much. So we went the three. Now we've been in here 8 years. I've already repainted one of the sections of WeatherTex. And on another section where I've been water blasting and cleaning down the house, where the paint was thin, the water blasting got in behind the paint and bubbled. So I've got these bubbled sections of weatherboards that needed to be repainted. So it all had to be sanded back and repainted. Whereas the Colorbond is just paint it. You get up on the roof, we've power washed the roof down a number of times, the walls down a number of times, and you don't even have to think about it. You just go, hey, Barry from anywhere. You don't need to stress. You stress about washing back the painted sections, but on the Colorbond, it's just so easy. So the ease and risk of cleaning Colorbond is so much easier.
Yeah, that's it. You're not going to strip the paint off the Colorbond with a water blaster like you would anything else. So,
No,
what
never
other sort
have.
of yeah, yeah, that's it. I mean, it's not really going to happen unless there's a defect in the actual Colorbond itself, which will then be covered by warranty anyway.
Yeah, so here's an
Because,
interesting thing talking about that. So where we've in 20 years working with Colorbond, I have dealt with one warranty claim,
mm,
and that started delaminating from the edge of the sheet, right on the very edge. And when hit with a water blaster, it only lifted small little sections from the edge. It didn't like continue to start lifting the rest of the sheeting because it was only a small, tiny section of the paint that hadn't adhered completely to the coil. So even in that situation, the reality of it is that if that one there was a new house that we had to re-roof because of that, if that was a 10-year-old house that had that happen, the reality is you just get some touch-up paint and you just touch up that little small section.
mm.
Really, really simple. So you're going to ask me something else.
Yeah, no, that was pretty much that was the question. I wasn't really going to ask you anything else. Was just making that point. Like you're not going to get rid of the paint. It's not going to damage the wall by getting your water blaster out and cleaning it, like you said, like cleaning a car. It's not going to cause long term sort of damage to the wall.
No.
And I mean, if everything's like flashed correctly and done well, it's the wall's not going to leak either.
So here's the problem. I mean, and that's another conversation as to, and like anything, if the installation hasn't been done to a standard, and properly, then you're going to have problems. And that's regardless of it, whether it's FC, weatherboard, some other material, or a Colorbond installation. If it hasn't been done to follow a system, or it
Yeah.
hasn't been done properly, then you're going to end up with problems. And for example, we've just recladded a house in Balimba that, and we've spoken about this before, that originally had like a timber weatherboardy type,
Mm.
natural timber paneling that was on the walls that failed and leaked. They spent a few $100,000 to rectify that and have cement board put on, only to have that fail and leak once again. Now we've gone in and we have installed standing seam Colorbond. It looks amazing, by the way, Josh. I showed you those photos, those videos this morning.
Yeah, it looks immaculate. But yeah, like what I was
Yeah, and doesn't leak. Yeah.
that point, yeah, the further to that point of like not leaking or whatever, like if you've got timber weatherboards on your house, if they, like I was saying before, if they get waterlogged or start rotting or whatever, they can bow, which then is going to affect your windowsills anyway.
Mm.
So even installed perfectly at time of installation, over time, if that timber warps, there is the potential for water and stuff to get into those window heads in that instance. Whereas with Colorbond, it's not going to warp and stay permanently in that situation unless it's severely damaged, like
Yeah,
something running into it
yeah.
or something like that.
And that's where expansion contraction will do a lot there. So having timber weatherboards, not with a timber frame, and then having your reveal with aluminium, let's say a modern house. So let's look at, if you were building today, you'd have a
Yeah.
pine frame or a true core or metal frame, whether it's true core or it's some other brand. you'd have your frame, and then you'd have whatever cladding would be on the outside of that. Then you'd have a pine reveal that would go around an aluminium window. There's your kind of standard system there. Now, if you look at expansion and contraction, the more dissimilar materials are there, the more the expansion and contraction will act differently. So as we were talking before, if you had a pine wall, so let's change this up. If you had a true core steel wall, then you had a timber cladding on the outside with aluminium frame window. Those three components will, in the heat, will move and twist at a different rate to and that would twist around. So you get the water, and as that moves around, you get a little bit of water in where it's cracked a bit of silicon, the water gets in there, then over time, you won't even know this is happening. Over time, that timber starts to rot out, or the reveals in your windows start to rot out. And so that needs to. So now let's change that to, if you had a true core steel frame with Colorbond cladding on metal battens, true core metal battens, and then you have the window. So, and then you flash to that window, and you flash not to the timber reveal, but you flash to the aluminium surround. So all of the sealant processes is metal to metal to metal to metal to metal. There's no timber involved. So as it's heat expanding and contraction, see, timber under heat will expand and under heat and cold, it will expand and contract at a different rate to metal. So when you bring as many similarities together, especially on like a Western wall, where you've got the hot afternoon sun, you're going to get a lot of expansion and contraction. So being able to use a lightweight frame, lightweight cladding in that scenario will give you a better outcome to avoid all of that movement, like you said, getting the water in and creating issues.
Yeah, that's it. Is there much else we need to sort of cover on this one?
Well, look, I think our next video was how to design a home to get the best value out of your Colorbond cladding. So I think in this video is why you would use Colorbond cladding on your home. I think, yeah, we probably have covered most of those off. Maintenance, style. And so just touching on style, if you're trying to achieve a certain look, and you talked about this before this morning when we had our meeting discussing all of this, if you're trying to make your house look like a container, you can use Colorbond steel. Rather than buying a container, you can use Colorbond. You wouldn't, if you're trying to make your house look like a container, you wouldn't be putting FC board on there. If you were building a Hampton style home and you wanted that vertical look of like the white vertical panel look, so you could use Colorbond in that scenario, or you could use the FC board there. So, but if you're now, you want to minimize the maintenance, you go to the Colorbond version of that. If you're wanting like these, there's so many different styles. So looking at the style that you're trying to achieve on your home, Colorbond can do that. Now you may look at it from a maintenance point of view and a style point of view together, go, well, I'm going to build a 2-story house that's on the side of a hill and it's going to project out the side of the hill. For me to repaint that in 10 years time, I'm 100% going to be building the world's largest scaffold system. So if I put Colorbond up there now and a Colorbond around the top level, I'm essentially eliminating maintenance up at that high level. And so if I'm going to paint, I'm only painting on that bottom level, which can be done off A-frames and planks, etc., and some ladders, rather than a huge scaffold. So from a design point, that's another reason why you'd use Colorbond to. And here's the other thing. So in that design, you could sheet your entire house using Colorbond. Like we had those plans come through from a builder up near Noosa yesterday, Josh, which the house, the roof is standing seam, the walls are standing seam, everything is standing seam, the whole works. And my first impression is like, hey, we could make some money on this job because it's all us. Um, However, I said to the builder, that is going to be really, really ugly. It's not going to look good. You've just got way too much. Everything is the same. Too much of a good thing. You're spending all this money. Like it's not cheap to do standing seam roofing and cladding.
No.
And even if these people have the budget, it doesn't mean that they are going to be able to, it'll look good at the end of it. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's that.
Like, I mean, I think we were discussing when we were looking at those plans, like having a A-frame sort of gable house and having the roofing and the walls clad in standing seam works. I mean, we did it on the garage at Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's no eaves. So it looks, you get that look of the roof is becoming the wall.
Yeah.
Whereas when you've got eaves, there's this real distinct change between roof and cladding. So it becomes, it's broken up. It doesn't seamlessly transition, which then becomes the point of it's going to draw your eye to the fact that there's the difference. And especially if that's going to be, if the client wants to have the same color, it's just going to saturate the entire build with just this one look, one color.
Well, so if they've gone to the approach, taking the advice from someone saying that they're going for the standing seam because they want zero maintenance, they want very, very low maintenance on their home, and they want architectural range, essentially in that situation, there's other products that you can go with low maintenance. For example, like the burnt timber, that Japanese style burnt timber. That is completely sealed and then stops aging, and it just stays as is. It stays black or it grays off. And then you can also use stonework where you have the stacked stone effect. And then you could bring some standing seam in with that, or some Colorbond in around those things, but not making it the whole thing. So it's about looking at it from, it's about looking at it and making sure it looks good, not just because I want this and I want this because on that house that I saw over there, it looks good. And like I said to the builder, we can quote all this up for you, but we don't want to do it. I don't want to do that. Like if they really, really want to do it, we're going to let you know that we think it's not going to look good. But if they want to spend the money on it, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, right?
No. Yeah, that's it. The client wants what the client wants, right?
Yeah.
We can give all the advice in the world, but ultimately it's their decision. If that's what they want to go with, that's what they want to go with.
Yeah, some people buy Camrys, some people buy Mercs, some people buy Great Wall Motors, Havels, and if everyone's happy with what they got.
Yeah, that's it. People are going to want what they're going to want.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you want to give us a comment on why you think, well, if we've missed anything as to like why you should use Colorbond steel, just chuck it in the comments so other people can learn from it as well, because I think that's very important. That's why people are here.
Yeah, that's it. Here to give advice and give information out to everyone. So if we missed, then we're more than humble to say, oh, we missed this, guys.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty of things in there. There's other reasons as to why you should use Colorbond steel.
These are just the main ones you can think of.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons. Because that I could tell you, I love it. It's beautiful.
Because you're supporting local industry.
Yeah, it's Australian made, fully imported from China. No, it's not. It isn't. It's
made at Port Kembla, mate.
Well, yeah. Well, that's another discussion. Anyway, I'll let you see us out, Josh.
All right, folks. We'll catch you next time. What are we covering next time? It's going to be how to make the most of your Colorbond cladding.
How to clad with Colorbond on a budget. Something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, I won't put it in the link in here, so you'll have to go looking for it. It'll be the next number in the chronological order.
Hey, point in. Just look at this one here. It's going to be out after this. So
yeah.
See you next time, folks.
See ya.